welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
We take the sources you send us, news, analysis, and, well, we dig in to pull out the key knowledge.
Sort of a shortcut to getting up to speed.
Exactly. And today we're looking at the UK local and mayoral elections from May 1st, 2025.
Yes, a really interesting set of results to unpack.
We've got a mix of articles here. Our mission, really, is to understand the main takeaways, any surprises, and maybe what this hints at for the future.
Absolutely, because even though they're local, they often give us a good sense of the national mood.
Okay, let's jump in. The sheer scale first. A lot of seats were up for grabs.
Oh, yeah. Huge number. The main figure was 1,641 council seats.
Right, across 23 different local authorities in England.
And those were different types, 14 county councils, 8 unitary authorities.
Which handle everything locally.
Correct. And Doncaster, a metropolitan district. All seats contested in those councils.
And that wasn't even everything, was it? There were by-elections, too.
Yep, 93 separate council by-elections, plus, get this, 1,274 parish council elections.
Wow, so easily over 1,600 seats in total being decided.
That's the ballpark. Some sources maybe nudged it slightly higher, towards 1,750 perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting, and a bit technical maybe, is the total number of seats in those 23 main councils actually decreased.
Oh, why is that?
Boundary changes. Went down from 1,736 to that 1,641 figure.
Ah, okay. So important context when we look at gains and losses.
Exactly. Need to keep that baseline shift in mind.
Got it. Now, let's talk about the Conservatives. Going into this, it sounded like they were bracing for impact.
That's putting it mildly. They were defending most of the seats being contested.
How many was that again?
It was 954 out of that original 1,736 total before the boundary tweaks.
And the timing is key here, right? These were seats won back in 2021.
Precisely. The Boris Johnson vaccine bounce era. A high point for them.
So naturally, holding on to all of those seats in 2025 was always going to be a huge ask.
A very tall order. The expectation widely reported was for a difficult day. Significant losses were predicted.
And there was even talk of potential consequences for the leadership if things went badly.
There was speculation, yes. Poor results often fuel that kind of talk within a party. Given the national polls, it wasn't surprising analysts were thinking that way.
Okay, let's flip to Labour then. A big test for Keir Starmer's government, but the picture seems, well, not entirely straightforward.
It really isn't. The sources show quite different takes on his leadership.
How so?
Well, one piece was quite critical, suggesting Labour hadn't really capitalized enough on Tory troubles, almost calling it quite a poor performance historically for the party leader.
Harsh. But others saw it differently.
Yes, other analysis suggested Labour was perhaps still holding on to key working class support. Maybe more because voters were fed up with the Conservatives rather than, massive enthusiasm for Labour itself.
And the results on the ground reflected that complexity. Lots of wins, but maybe some caveats.
Definitely. The mayoral results were strong for Labour, that's undeniable.
Sadiq Khan in London seemed comfortable.
Very comfortable. And they took the West Midlands mayoralty.
But that was super close, wasn't it? A recount.
Extremely close, yes. Required a recount. But they also won Liverpool City region, Greater Manchester, West Yorkshire, the North East, East Midlands, South Yorkshire.
Plus the new ones in York and North Yorkshire.
Exactly. Those are significant regional flags planted for Labour.
But beneath the mayoral level, in the councils, it was more of a mixed story.
It was. Labour did gain control of some councils directly from the Conservatives, places like Adur, Redditch, Rushmore, Nuneaton, and Bedworth.
Okay.
And they took others from no overall control, like Hartlepool, Hyndburn, Milton Keynes, so definite progress there.
But losses, too.
Yes, they lost overall control in Oldham and Kirklees. Both councils ended up hung with no single party in charge.
And the Gaza conflict seems to have played a significant role in some of those specific results.
That's a really crucial point emerging from the analysis. In areas with large Muslim communities, Labour's stance, or perceived stance, on Gaza appears to have cost them support.
How did that manifest? Lower turnout or votes going elsewhere?
Both, it seems. Voters either staying home or, importantly, backing independent candidates who were more outspoken on the issue.
And Oldham and Kirklees were specifically mentioned in that context.
They were highlighted as key examples where this factor likely contributed to Labour losing control. It shows how international issues can really impact local results.
Interesting. We also saw some broader criticisms, didn't we? about Labor's overall policy offering.
Yes, some commentators argued their platform wasn't seen as a clear enough break from, say, the austerity years.
The idea being it might not have excited voters looking for big changes.
That was the argument, potentially alienating some who wanted a more radical alternative. And it's also notable that any policy successes, like maybe falling NHS waiting lists, didn't seem to translate into much public credit for Labour.
Right. Okay, let's switch gears. Reform UK. They were certainly making waves.
They were definitely aiming to make a splash. They talked about making major gains.
And they put up a lot of candidates. Right?
More than any other party, actually. Nigel Farage sounded very bullish, even predicting they might win mayoralties.
And the Runcorn and Helsby by-election, they fancied their chances there too.
Very much so. The general expectation was they'd pick up quite a few council seats, mostly from
the Conservatives.
That was the main assumption, yes. But, and this is key, they were also actively targeting traditional Labour voters.
Whereabouts?
Particularly in the north and in parts of Wales, focusing on issues like, quality of life, jobs, crime, trying to tap into disillusionment there.
It wasn't just about peeling off Tory voters then.
No, it was a dual strategy. Remember that quote from Farage?
The Conservatives for breakfast, Labour for lunch. What?
That's the one. Really sums up their ambition to disrupt both main parties.
And long term, is the goal even bigger? Maybe displacing the Tories on the right.
Some analysts definitely floated that idea, that Reform sees an opportunity to become the main challenger, the main party on the right. It's a bold ambition.
And tied into that, we should probably mention Farage's stance on NHS funding.
Yes, the proposal to potentially end funding through general taxation, that's a pretty fundamental policy shift being suggested.
Hugely controversial, of course.
Generated a lot of debate, absolutely.
Yeah.
Raises big questions.
Let's zoom in on that Runcorn and Helsby by-election you mentioned. Why was that one getting so much attention?
Well, firstly, it happened because the Labour MP, Mike Amesbury, resigned.
Oh.
But the really striking thing was that Reform UK were actually the bookies' favorites to win it.
In a Labour seat.
Exactly, a traditionally Labour area. That really raised eyebrows and showed Reform's potential threat.
And Labour threw a lot at defending it.
They certainly seemed to. Reports suggested a strategy of appealing directly to Tory voters in the area.
Asking them to vote Labour tactically to keep Reform out.
That appeared to be the approach. We heard about a large number of Labour MPs campaigning there, maybe 150 or so.
Though not Sarmer himself, apparently.
Interestingly, no. He didn't seem to campaign there personally, according to the reports we saw.
The main candidates were Labour's Karen Shore and Reform's Sarah Pochin.
Correct. A real head-to-head between those two parties in that specific contest.
So a crucial test of whether Reform could actually win in Labour's traditional territory.
Precisely. A bellwether for their broader appeal beyond just attracting dissatisfied conservatives.
Okay, beyond the big three, what about the other parties? The Liberal Democrats, for instance.
The Lib Dems were looking to consolidate gains, especially with socially liberal voters they've attracted recently.
Did they have much success?
They had a significant gain taking control of Dorset Council, and there were hints of tactical voting benefiting them in some places.
People voting specifically to block another party.
It seems so, yeah. And the Green Party. Any signs of them picking up votes? There was an expectation they might benefit, particularly in cities, from Labour voters perhaps unhappy with the party's direction, maybe on Gaza, or wanting stronger environmental policies.
And we absolutely have to mention the independents. They seemed quite prominent.
Very much so. Especially, as we discussed, in areas with large Muslim populations.
Driven by that dissatisfaction over Gaza again.
Largely attributed to that, yes. It really underlined how local factors and specific community concerns can significantly boost independent candidates.
So taking a step back, looking at the whole picture, does this suggest a bigger shift happening? Maybe away from the old Labour versus Conservative dominance.
That's certainly one major interpretation coming through. Some analysis points to a potential decline in the combined vote share for Labour and the Conservatives.
A bit like trends seen before.
Yeah, maybe echoing patterns from the mid-2000s. One source even provocatively suggested these results could signal the death of two-party politics in England for good.
Wow, strong words.
It is strong, but it reflects that sense of fragmentation, with Reform gaining, Lib Dems holding ground, Greens and Independents playing bigger roles in certain areas. It's certainly a more complex map.
Okay, so let's try and summarize this deep dive then. It feels like May 2025 gave us a really complex, kind of messy picture.
I think that's fair. Labour got those big mayoral wins, which are important symbolic victories.
But they also clearly faced headwinds. The Gaza issue, losing control in some councils.
Exactly. And the Reform UK factor looms large, impacting both Labour and the Conservatives.
Right, they're pulling votes from potentially both sides now.
Which contributes to that feeling of a shifting landscape, more support for other parties, more independents making breakthroughs.
So these local elections felt like a pretty significant marker for the Labour government.
Definitely a major test, and it gives us lots of pointers, lots of things to think about regarding potential future election outcomes. The ground feels less stable, perhaps.
So wrapping up, a final thought for you, the listener. Considering everything we've discussed, the labor challenges, the reform surge, the performance of others, what do you think are the really big long-term consequences for UK politics? What questions do these results raise about where the main parties go from here?
Yeah, definitely plenty to mull over. It's clear things are very much in flux.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.